Most black voters, by the way, have no idea about the racist history of the Democratic Party. I didn't know when I was in high school that the Democrats founded the Klan. I didn't know when I was in high school that Democrats voted against the 13th Amendment that freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment that gave slaves citizenship, the 15th Amendment that, at least on paper, gave slaves the right to vote. Democrats voted against all of that stuff.
I know because I know the data, and I know that black Americans have been voting for the Democratic Party for the last few decades since the 60s, and we are facing zero median wealth by 2053.
I see how the Democrats are moving, and how they are moving is the exact reason why I stopped becoming a Democrat.
They don't have black voters if they don't have any broke black voters.
Let me say something real quick. History is not always simple, it's not always clean, and it's definitely not always agreed on, because depending on who is telling it, how it's told, and what is left out, the story can sound very different. And right now there is a conversation going around that is making people stop and say, wait, is that really how it happens? Before I go any further, I want you to watch those clips. Don't just hear about it, see it for yourself, then come back, because we need to break this down properly. Let's go to watch those clips and we'll come back for the full detailed analysis.
Most black voters, by the way, have no idea about the racist history of the Democratic Party. I didn't know when I was in high school that the Democrats founded the Klan. I didn't know when I was in high school that Democrats voted against the 13th Amendment that freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment that gave slaves citizenship, the 15th Amendment that, at least on paper, gave slaves the right to vote. Democrats voted against all of that stuff. I didn't know when I was in high school that more Republicans as a percentage of the party voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 than did Democrats. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Everett Dirksen, a Republican in Illinois, got an award from the NAACP for how he helped to shepherd the Civil Rights Bill through Congress. I didn't know that Al Gore's father participated in what was then the longest filibuster to prevent the bill from ever becoming on the floor. I also bought into that notion that, okay, Democrats used to be racist, but then Republicans switched places with them in the 60s. I bought into that until I found out that of all the Democrats that voted against the Civil Rights Act in the House, of all the Democrats who voted against the Civil Rights Act in the Senate, only 2 switched to the Republican Party, one of whom was Strom Thurmond. George Wallace, who stood in front of the school door as a Democratic governor saying segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever, he died a Democrat. Robert Byrd, who was a Kleagle, that means a recruiter for the Klan, he died a Democrat at 100 years old in the Senate. Most of these guys never switch parties. It is a lie. The reason the South became more and more Republican is because the Democratic Party became more and more left-wing, became anti-Vietnam, anti-war, pro-abortion, and the South became increasingly uncomfortable with their allegiance to the Democratic Party, especially since Jim Crow had fallen. If Jim Crow has fallen, why are we in bed with these Democrats? What's the point? And so the South became more and more Republican for a reason that had nothing to do with racism. But that was the line that was fed by so many people, and so many blacks to this day believe that.
I know because I know the data, and I know that black Americans have been voting for the Democratic Party for the last few decades since the 60s, and we are facing zero median wealth by 2053. I know that black American families were 2-parent households. A traditional family in the 1930s was 87%. In the 1960s, we went down to 65% when LBJ delivered his speech at Howard University. We are now at 25 to 30%. 2-parent house.
I see how the Democrats are moving, and how they are moving is the exact reason why I stopped becoming a Democrat. When I started to see how they was treating everybody else outside of the black community, but they need the black folks for their vote so they can stay in office, but there's no benefit that the black community was actually benefiting from the Democrat Party, I walked away from it. I've seen illegals receive better benefits than black people in this country. And to be clear, I understand that I am an American, okay? And I understand everyone in the United States is an American. But I'm speaking about my culture and my culture alone, because we're not gonna sit here and try to lie and act like our culture, the black community, hasn't declined. Abortion counts at an all-time high. There aren't many traditional family homes within the black community. I probably in a few in number of a traditional home. I'm married with my husband, and we have 3 beautiful kids together. And yes, we are Christ believers. We are full devoted believers in Christ Jesus. For real. I see what they're doing. I see the narrative that they're running. They're trying to keep black folks on their side so they keep the votes so they can win the midterms. But when did black people ever benefited from the Democrat Party? When you do research, for real, actual research, when did black people ever benefit from the Democrat Party? Before y'all go into and say, oh, well, there's the civil rights, and it wasn't for Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson was the president. That is correct. But the party that voted for the majority for the civil rights was Republicans, not Democrat. The party that fought against black people being free from slavery were Democrats. In fact, the KKK created the Democrat Party. And before y'all go into this party switch, because y'all love to use this party switch, I did research on that too, boo. Out of all the Southern Democrats that switched over, was only 2. 2. Not the whole Republican Party. 2 Democrats became a Republican. Everybody else stayed a Southern Democrat. And the system and their beliefs that they have today still exist today. Why do you think there's still hoods in the inner cities and ain't much work being done within the Democrat states and cities? That's intentional. They want black people to stay bound. But they keep convincing us it's the other side. It is not the other side. And to be clear, I am not a Democrat nor a Republican. I am just someone who stands on truth. I serve a God who stands on biblical truth. And I serve that God by reading the Word of God, which is why I always talk about Christ on my page. Yeah. I see what they're doing. I see what the Democrats are doing. A black woman like myself, I'm not falling for it. You won't catch me supporting the Democrat Party no more. Y'all call me a bootlicker. Y'all call me a B-word. Y'all call me all the names. I don't care. You understand me? I don't care. You will never catch me bow down to that deity. Ever. Because it never benefited me. It never benefited my family. I've seen what it has done to the city where I'm from in the DMV area. Making rent extremely high for people to struggle. Groceries high, and all the things. I've seen it. And I used to think that white people were like the worst people in the world until I moved down south, and I now live in a Republican state, and the city that I live in is conservative based. It gave me a new perspective, and that is why I started to do research on the Democrat Party. Black people, you are American citizens here. Look up the people that you're fighting for. Those illegals, look them up and see if they're worth fighting for. This is not about racism. ICE is not deporting people due to race. ICE is deporting people because folks broke the law and has done some severe damage here in the United States. And it is their job to deport. And the fact that the Democrat Party gave more benefits, more resources, better resources to the illegals than us should be more than enough reason to stop supporting the Democrat Party. I'm telling you guys, I'm encouraging you. Start doing your research on these Democrat politicians, especially these black ones, y'all. They don't care about us. I've said this before my page started to do what it's doing right now. I've always said this. Them black politicians, they don't care about you. Them black Democrat politicians, they do not care about you. And those white liberals that support their policies and want to block ICE from doing their job, they're telling you, black woman, black man, that you deserve to have those illegals in your neighborhood. You deserve to have the smacks trafficking in your neighborhood. You deserve to see all the horrible things going on in your neighborhood by these illegals. Yes, they are. They are telling you that without telling you that. You will never catch me be a Democrat ever again. And I mean that.
They don't have black voters if they don't have any broke black voters.
They can't buy us. You know, the black vote has long stood with the Democratic Party for long, and I feel like they have taken that for granted, and they haven't done much with it. And black men are entrepreneurial. Black men are responsible. Black men want to take care of their family. Black men are competent. Black men are able. And we can't be bought with socialist agendas. We are smart and we're able.
So the Democrats have taken to the streets now in protest of the auditing of money that they have lost, gave away, spent, and put in their own pockets. They're in the street says, in reality, they're saying, don't investigate us. We don't want to be caught in the act of fraud. And because that's the only thing I can think of why you would protest an audit of the money that belongs to you, unless you're the one that's spending, unless the one that you defrauded the people. But one thing I don't see in the midst of all these protests is black people. There are no black people in these protests because the black people have seen that you have squandered the money that you told them in the beginning that you were going to take and watch out for black people, protect black people. And you said, we're going to protect you from police brutality. We're going to protect you for identifying and voting rights. And we're going to get you the right to vote. All that crap that you talked about in the past is no longer on the table. You told black women that they're going to be put back and the black population is going to be back into slavery because of Donald Trump and all these changes. What you were doing is that you were putting black people out front for your cause. You were putting Kamala Harris out front because you wanted protection, because you want to continue to send money overseas, taking it out of the pockets of poor black people who were struggling, and send that money overseas to get sex changes and condoms. While we here in America who are supporting you in the this Democratic Party of yours, we have been supporting you. Well, not me, of course, because I'm on to you. They have been supporting you and trusting you and putting that confidence in you that you were going to be a party of your word. Well, anytime you take God out of a party, I see that there's deception, and you have deceived black people. Of course, you deceived the country, but you told black people that you were for them. And then when we found out, you were for yourselves. You pocketed money, you sent it overseas, and you didn't look back at black people. You had no legislation to help them, no policy to help them. You did nothing. You did nothing in the civil rights movement, no civil rights bill that you passed. All you have did was to promote fear-mongering in the black community, tell them that things were coming and that we should watch out for it and to be afraid and being fearful. The truth has come about that you was the one that's oppressing black people because you were the one that was stealing from them, and you were the ones that keeping black people in poverty. And now you want to take to the streets, and black people said, we're not going to go out there and protest in the street with you because you have been found out that you were the one that was spending the money, not this white supremacist. It has nothing to do with a voter ID, has nothing to do with police brutality. It's you that were causing us to look the other way when you were spending our money. Black people are on to you now. We're not going to the streets and protest. We're going to find out what else you've done, and we're going to hold you accountable, Democrats, for the wrong that you have done. It's time for the buck to stop here. This is Gilbert Wilkerson. This is Black Society.
The black community was right, and they've always been right. And if we could push aside, we, the Latino community, if we could push aside our racism, our colorism, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here because they have been warning us about what's going on, and your empathy was not there for the black community. It wasn't. So now that it's happening to us, now you get it. Now you see where they're coming from. Now you see the similarities. And I really hope that there comes a time where my people truly wake up, because the Black community is fucking strong. They're smart. They have learned their history, and they try to tell us. They try to teach us. Black women have tried to tell us. 92%ers tried to fucking tell us. Granted, I listened. My ears were open, but a lot of my Latino community was like, okay. And I truly hope that, yes, it sucks that we are here and that things are so ugly, but I hope that we are learning and we're growing, and it's okay to be wrong and to admit it and to try to do better next time. Next time we vote, next time something happens to somebody who is part of the Black community, because now we know what the fuck it feels like.
The amount of anti-Blackness that's permeated globally since the beginning of time is disproportionate to the history that Black people have had on this planet. Where's the big crime against humanity? Where's the big crime against the environment? Where's the big crime against the animal kingdom? I mean, of course I know that there's no crime that would justify the amounts of anti-Blackness that the world has allowed to fester. And my bigger point is how powerful propaganda is. You can go to any country, so many languages have slurs for Black people. And this goes from the top 1% to the Mountain Dew drinking maggots. Even in the Epstein files, no Black people in his day-to-day life. There's been racial slurs in those emails. These young Republican group chats that have been getting leaked, there's been several get leaked. They using the N-word back and forth all day, dream about causing harm to Black people. Think about when the streamer, I Show Speed, he went to him going to some of the countries in Europe or some of the countries in Asia, making monkey noises, throwing bananas, European soccer leagues. They've had to have games with nobody in the stands because the anti-Blackness was so out of hand. You can fail in another career. You can be a failed actor, a failed musician, a failed athlete. If you pivot to spouting out anti-Black rhetoric, you can make a lucrative career out of that. You can have a viable career. You can call kids the N-word, have that video go viral, and then you've got a 6-figure GoFundMe set up in 3 business days. The math's just not adding up. 2 + 2 is not equaling 4. The amount of dehumanization and persecution just doesn't add up to the impact and history Black people have had on this planet. That just shows you how much of a real thing propaganda and programming is.
So boom, I'm at the grocery store, in line, about to check out, minding my own business, when 2 ladies get in the line behind me, okay, and they talking about Kamala. So I was just like, mind your business. So one of the ladies tapped me on my shoulder, and I'm like, oh, what is going on? What the hell? I just want to get these groceries and get out of here. I already paid $100 for a bag, so let me get my shit and let me go, okay? And she tapped me on my shoulder, so I was just like, she say, ain't it a shame that Kamala lost? I straight up and told her, the better candidate won. What you want me to say, lady? I'm trying to go home. I was like, you support Donald Trump? I was thinking to myself, should I tell her? Should I tell her? So what you think I did? I told her. Then she gonna say, but you're Black. Everything inside me took me. It took me, y'all. It took me there. And I said, what that got to do with it? Yeah, I'm Black. Why I have to vote for Kamala because I'm Black? She said, because she's Black. She ain't Black, lady. She ain't Black. I said, lady, all I'm trying to do is pay for my groceries. You've been having me in this line for 5 minutes talking about Kamala Harris. And then I told her, Trump is blacker than Kamala, okay? And that's what I said. She said, that's a shame. That's a shame. Black people supposed to stick together. And I told her just like this. If they could find a real Black woman that's running for Republican, I would vote for her. But until then, leave me alone, lady. Just leave me alone. And all I can hear is her when I'm walking away. Such a shame. Black people, such a shame. When I walked away, I was boiling the inside, okay? I was boiling. I just wanted to scream.
I just think it's really sad that immigrants to this country who become citizens who can vote, particularly but not exclusively, people from the African diaspora, right? Black people from around the world, whether from the continent or the islands, come to this country and decide that the negative propaganda that they have been fed for their lifetimes about Black Americans is so strong that upon becoming citizens and achieving the right to vote, then decide to use that vote to harm Black Americans. That is some twisted That is a twisted mess. The very people whose 400-year struggle for liberation and freedom and equity, and who pushed that out to the world, who showed the world that, and so many movements followed around the world from the Black American 400-year fight for freedom. I'm not saying that we started it. I'm not saying that we're the only ones. I am just saying because this is the United States, it became the most popular and the most known globally. But to somehow have that overshadowed by the negative propaganda fed to all the diaspora countries and the mainland of Africa and South America and the Caribbean, that far too many, as a result, far too many people come from those places, become citizens, earning the right to vote, and use that vote to specifically harm us. It's just Somalis right now, but it's not only Somalis. And it's not only Black. It's Afro-Latino. It's Latino. People come from South Central America and use that vote against us. Cubans, Venezuelans, others use that against us. The very people who made it so this country has laws and constitutional amendments that allow you to come here and get that right to vote, get a job, go to school, get health care, get an education, buy a house, start a business. You think that is all done for you out of the benevolence of the majority? No. You got that because of us. And to then turn around and use your vote to harm us is diabolical, evil, vile, short-sighted, awful.
Nothing brings out the inner Klansman of a white liberal faster than a Black person who refuses to obey. Every time I log into social media, I'm seeing a new video from white liberals, especially white liberal women, questioning the purity and validity of Black people, calling them traitors and sellouts and even the N-word, because they are no longer subscribing to the orthodoxy of the political left. And I think that's interesting to see that they have become so confident and so overt in their anti-Black racism, which has always presented itself as a perceived ownership over Black people. Now, there are a lot of us who have been saying this for the longest amount of time, even while voting Democrat, that the way that white liberals engage with Black people, it's usually through a lens of dictatorship, telling you what you're supposed to believe, what your politics are supposed to be, how dangerous your men and your families are. And at the end of the day, when you look at most of these social justice movements, because I don't know why they're called social justice now and it's no longer civil rights, right? But if you look behind most of these movements, they tend to be funded and supported by white liberals. The same white liberals who tell Black women that Black men are the problem. The same white liberal women who tell Black women that abortion is the #1 civil rights freedom issue of the day, when at the same time they go home to their husbands and their children, often living the same circumstances that they're telling you that you should not have access to. Black people are now hip to the scam of the political left, and no matter how unhinged you become or how much racist rhetoric you espouse, it's too late. You're not going to be able to shame Black people into compliance. You're not going to be able to disrespect them to the point where they're so hurt by your lack of approval that they're going to start advocating for their own replacement. And, you know, there's nothing more disrespectful to Black people than the soft bigotry, but I would call the hard bigotry of your low expectations. And it's those same low expectations that have kept our community stagnant in this country for decades.
Here's my rant about my dislike for the Democratic Party. Before Trump was even president, before MAGA was even here, I walked away from that party in 2014 and became strictly an independent. And as older I get, I lean more conservative because I look at the values and I look at both parties and see common sense is really not common in the Democratic Party. But a big reason I do not like that party is because they continue to treat black Americans like we are their property. They continue to treat us like we are their children. They continue to treat us like we are still their slaves. They're treating us like they are the slave master. Okay? Let's put this in perspective. When slavery was going on, you had a few slaves that were very well trusted. Master would give them a pass to be able to travel to take care of master's errands and things like that. And these slaves, they were able to see that all black people wasn't slaves. They saw black people in town doing business with other white people. They saw how they were dressed, how they were eating, how they owned things. And they came back to that plantation. And they shared with the other slaves like, we can be better than this. There's more outside this plantation. We don't have to be here. We are better. And you had a lot of those slaves saying, what better will you get than here? Who's going to feed you? Who's going to clothe you? Who's going to house you? Where are you going to work? You don't know how to read and write. You can't do these things for yourself. The Democratic Party is still doing the same thing. Look, when a black person starts to look at conservatives or the Republican Party and think about going independent and start holding the Democratic Party accountable, look how they treat you. See, back in the day, they used to beat you in front of everybody else. But now they try to destroy your image. And they will send the other slaves after you. And that is still what they're doing today. That is still what they're doing today, y'all. They still leading our people by fear. They don't think we can do anything without them. And once we do escape that Democratic plantation, we become the enemy. So tell me how that's love for the people. If the parties did switch, which I love to bring up, remember the original Republicans were made up of black and white abolitionists. And they were working and passing legislation to make black people in this country more American and showing us that we are American. So if the party switched and so-called Republicans are the Democratic Party today, why aren't they treating us like they were before? Why are they not working on legislation to help the black community? Why did they stop that in the 60s? Come on, man. But that's my quick rant, y'all. We are not owned by the Democratic Party. We can think for ourselves and do what we want. That is the great thing about being in America. Majority of things we can do with our own free will. We have the choice to do what we want. Our ancestors did not die to just vote for Democrats. They voted to have the choice to vote for who they wanted to vote for. Because when they really were dying to vote, they were dying because they were voting for Republicans. And you know that triple K group that was created by the Democrats? We'll come back to that. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments.
I'm actually here for more black people waking up to the truth about them Democrats. I've been seeing a lot of y'all liking my videos. So I guess being called a coon and a sample and a mammy and trying to oppress a white man was all worth it, huh? Even though those things are not true. I was just sharing the truth because we as a people need to wake up because we are Americans. We're not slaves. We're not oppressed. We're not any of those things. So we will not continue to believe the lies that comes from the enemy because he is the real oppressor that wants to keep black people and many other people in this country in bondage to make us think that this world has nothing for us when we know that is a lie in the pit of hell. Okay? A lot of y'all waking up and I see it. I see y'all and it's beautiful to witness. I wish many more will wake up. But for those who are waking up, welcome to this side. Whether you become an independent or Republican or conservative, but just you just walking away from the left, just know that you are gaining your power, you are gaining your strength, and you're walking away from the plantation that has kept our people bound for too long, and we are taking everything back. Amen. And I love y'all. All right, bye.
Now, let's talk about this. What we are seeing here is not just reaction, it's question. People are looking at historical narrative, political affiliation, and past decision, and they are asking, does the full story match what we have been told? This isn't just about one party or one moment, it's about understanding history fully, because history is complex, it includes different perspectives, changing option over time, and evolving ideas. And when people discover new information, they react. Now, here is the truth. History often gets simplified, but when you dig deeper, things becomes more complicated. And that's where the debate starts, questions rise, and people begins to reevaluate what they know. Now, let's talk about perspective here. For many black communities and individuals, history is not just something studied, it's something lived, felt, and passed down. There has always been a strong need to question narrative, look beyond surface level explanation, and understand how history connects to the present. Because history shapes opportunity, system, and everyday life. So when conversation about history comes up, here is a deeper level of engagement. Not just what happened, but how does it affect us today? That's awareness, and it's very powerful, because if history is misunderstood, decision based on it can also be flawed. That's why context matter, nuisance matters, and full understanding matters. Let me ask you something. Have you ever learned something new about history and realized it was different from what you thought before? That's what we are saying here. This topic is bringing up because it challenges what people think they know, and when belief are changed, conversation gets loud. Let's zoom out here. This isn't just about politics, it's about knowledge, interpretation, critical thinking, because history is not just about the past, it shapes the future. At the end of the day, this isn't about arguing, it's about understanding, learning, and growing, because the more we understand history, the better we can navigate the present. So here's what I want to know. Do you think history is being fully explained today, or are there still gaps people are discovering? Drop your thoughts below. Let's really get into it in the comment section. And if you are into real conversation, make sure you think. Stay connected, because we are going deeper on viral clips like this on this channel every time. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in my next video.